Hey friends, welcome to Homegrown Florida. I'm Katrina, and today we are going to be taking a look around my summer garden, and not just any summer garden, a Florida neglected summer garden. Here in Florida, having a summer garden is a bit of a challenge. Nothing really wants to grow. The pests are intense. The heat is pretty much unparalleled to any other time. And then the humidity, of course, increases all of the fungal issues. So growing a garden in the middle of summer in Florida or our other really hot southern states, you are going to be up against a lot of challenges. So I decided to do something a little bit crazy this year. I decided I was going to grow a summer garden, but I was going to neglect it completely. Well, let's see how it went. So I'm going to show you around to all of the different beds I have, the green stalks and my perennials, particularly a lot of my fruit trees and fruit bushes, and show you exactly how they're doing, what I've been doing for them, which is very little, and if they're producing or not. So we're going to start with this big beast right here. I have about 5 plants, I think, in here, 5 different kinds of plants in this little monster of a trellis. Probably the easiest one to spot is this guy right here, which is my butterfly pea. And then down here, I have a summer squash, and you see there is a lot of blooms, but unfortunately there haven't been very many female blooms. Oh, I see one. There's one female bloom right there, and so we're just gonna have to wait to see if it actually opens to see if it will pollinate. But that's been a common thing with squash, is that I get the male flowers but not so much the female flowers. Let's look at the next one. The other thing that's growing up here is all of these, which are cowpeas, and they're getting very, very close to producing. And you can see because they have, like, the flower part is starting to almost get there. Right next to the cowpeas, we have the Thai soldier beans. Oh, and the loofah. Okay. In fact, not only do we have the loofah, but it looks like one of the squashes from the other side has grown all the way over here. And this is the loofah right here. It has grown all the way up top. And some of those yellow flowers, like right there, are from the loofah, but then something like right here is from the squash. So they're kind of mixed up together. So besides all that, then we get to our Thai soldier beans. And I have a bunch on here that need to be picked, so let's go ahead and grab these while we're here. So this is about the right size for these. If you're curious what they taste like, these guys are very much like green beans. You got to pick them when they're small, because they go from this size to well over done. And we'll see if we find one right here. This one's getting pretty close, but you can see that it's still not bumpy. The pods aren't still bumpy, so they're still good for the green beans. This one is starting to get that little bumpy texture, but it's still good. I'm gonna start needing a ladder to get up here. Okay, I think we're good for the moment. This is about what I pull off every day or two. I don't actually remember how many plants I put in. I put in a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But I put them in 1 square, I think it was maybe 2 square feet that I used to put all of these plants in. And they have just crawled up the side of the trellis and inside the trellis, and they're all climbing on each other. So quite a bit of green beans. in one day. Not your traditional green beans, obviously. They taste a little less sweet of green beans. They definitely have that green bean taste, flavor, texture. Great alternative, and as you can see, they grow really well. Let me tell you what I'm doing for this entire trellis. Nothing. I have not fed it. I don't water it. I mean, the rain waters it, but I haven't fertilized it. I haven't even tried to maintain it in any way. I'm just letting it crawl and climb and do whatever it wants. The main purpose for this bed was to grow loofahs and to put in these cover crops, and beans and cowpeas are a great cover crop. I'm pretty shocked that the squash are even still alive, to be honest, but they aren't really producing. So that's one of the negatives of neglecting your summer garden, is that some things don't work. But the stuff that does work works really well. Another unexpected thing was my tomatoes. You guys remember my container versus raised bed tomato experiment that I did? Well, this is the tomato from that, and it is still alive. And the bugs have not found it. It's really green. It's got a little bit of, fungal issues happening here. But overall, I mean, it's doing really good. The flowers are starting to drop off. So it's definitely too hot. That one's still hanging on there though, so we might still get a couple more. Something about this spot, which if you can see, is really, really shaded. It only gets maybe about 3 hours of sun a day. It has really liked it there, and it's over the cover of my house, or the soffit of my house, so it is definitely getting that protection from the rain, so less fungal issues. Now let me show you the next beds, because these are pretty hysterical. Now these two beds was actually where the watermelon and cantaloupe were growing, and there's a random celery over there. I'm growing it for seed. It looks awful, but that's okay. It's still there and it's still growing, but I'm mainly growing it just so that it'll produce seeds so I can keep the seeds. There is a watermelon that's actually still growing in this bed, but something that was unexpected was these guys right here, and that is my Puerto Rican black beans. I did not plant these. I've never planted them in this particular bed. They were planted in that bed last season, but somehow they managed their way over here. You can see they are already producing pods. So this was unexpected, but I mean, it's cool. I'm excited to have more black beans, although I seem to have plenty of them. And it is running all the way into this bed. Another volunteer I have is this little monster right here. This is a pineapple tomatillo. These have been in my garden for years. I grew one plant that I bought at Home Depot years ago. And let me show you how you get the pineapple tomatillos. You just kind of shake them, and then there's your tomatillos. You have to wait for them to drop off, and then you can harvest them. I mean, I guess you don't have to wait for them to drop off, but that's the way I do it because that's the way I was told to do it. But I planted this plant from a Home Depot plant years ago, maybe 3. I don't really remember how long ago it was, but it was a while ago, and I never have to plant them. They always just come right back, and they produce a ton of these little baby fruits. Here's these little pineapple tomatillos, and they're tiny little bitty things. Normally they get more orange in this. Oh my god. It's really good. Kind of like a tomato and an orange had a baby, or a tomato and a pineapple, or a mango. Something very tropical. But I want to show you something because we haven't talked about this. It is happening over here, and it's happening over here, which is pest damage. You can clearly see that there is something in here. Let's see if it's on the back. Oh, lots of ants. But I don't see the culprit of this. I'm suspecting it's some kind of worm. And then over here, I want to show you what's happening to my pineapple tomatillo. All that along the branches there are aphids. There's aphids and ants all over this plant. In fact, there's aphids and ants and worms all over every single plant in this garden. So now what we're getting into is, this is my cover crop of sun hemp. And then just for fun, I put in a sunflower right here, and then down in that corner over there I have a few beans. I got beans from the Urban Harvest Seed Club. She doesn't send a whole lot, so a lot of the times the first year I get them, I put them in the ground for seed saving. So I grow as many as will pop up, and then I save the seed from that, and that's usually enough for me to grow in fall, spring, summer, that round for a larger harvest. But let's talk about this sun hemp. This stuff is getting very tall. I think it's like 4 feet tall at the moment. And so I've been testing something. I wanted to see, let's go down here and I can show you where I did it, if I can find it. Ah, right. No, that's not it. Right here. So I wanted to see that if I cut the top off, would it continue to grow? Because I didn't know that about sun hemp. And apparently it does. So my plan is to go and cut all of the top of this sun hemp off and start putting it in my beds, let it regrow, cut some more, put it in my beds, and it's like regrowing a chop and drop natural feed for the time, you know, that sun hemp will grow, because it's only going to grow during the summer. It likes really hot temperatures. But there's been no damage to this plant at all. I seeded it really, really heavy. I expected there to be some problems with that, but nope, not at all. Check out. You can see the lines even where I seeded these things, and they are right next to each other, but they do not seem to mind at all. There's some weeds in there. Once again, when you neglect your garden, you get some weeds. For the bean plants I have here, it looks like I may only have 1, 2, 3, maybe. Yeah, maybe 3, 4. I think there was maybe 10 I started with, so germination rate wasn't super great with those, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm just growing them so that I can have more beans for seed for next year. And this sunflower is doing spectacular. I expect the sunflower to come out any day now. I've got a couple more that are coming in, one right there, and then one right there, and then of course some weeds. Now another plant that absolutely loves our summers is sweet potatoes. And they need no help whatsoever. They do get tore up, they do get bugs, they do get hot, they'll wilt a little bit, they do all kinds of stuff to say that they're having trouble, but ignore them. They're lying. They're doing just fine all on their own. And you can see this is my my newest bed of sweet potatoes, and it's already starting to get that mat, which is really cool. But let's take a look at this one behind me. This bed right here is the cowpeas, and normally they need a trellis, but I didn't want to give them a trellis because that's work and we're neglecting. So I just planted them, and I'm going to let them climb each other. They're just going to crawl and climb and hopefully get some support from one another. Otherwise they're just going to kind of flop over, and it's fine. I don't mind. I'm not growing anything else in there, and so these guys will hopefully produce cowpeas. I'm sure they will. This is the whippoorwill cowpea variety. It's not too far off. It is also showing the little tip parts where the flowers come out, like the one did over in the last bed, and it is actually having some issues. So besides the aphid issue, oh, it actually looks like it's cleared up quite a bit. I don't know where all the aphids went. A couple days ago, it wasn't, but maybe a couple days ago, this thing was just rife with aphids. And now I can't find any. So somebody found them and ate them. So that's great news. But you can start to see some issues here. I'm not 100% sure if this is a fungal issue or a nutrient issue, and I'm kind of leading to believe that this is a fungal issue because the plant right next to it, same plant, is green. So if it were a nutritional issue, I would suspect that this whole patch would be this color. Now, I think what's happened here is right here, I used to have my red currant tomatoes. Those wonderful, I love those tomatoes, but they did get a fungal issue towards the end of their life. And they were right here in this spot, which is kind of where you're seeing some of this fungal issue happening. This yellowing is right in the spot where those red currant tomatoes were. So I'm suspecting that it is whatever fungus had gotten to the tomatoes, blight or whatever. So let's head down into the zinnia patch. This is all my zinnias. And it's funny because I use this bed for two purposes. Underneath the zinnias, you can probably barely see them, but like right here, these are all sweet potatoes. So there's spiders too. Lots of spiders this time of year, like an intense amount of spiders. So what I did was I grew the zinnias in the middle of the sweet potato bed so the vines can be all on the bottom and we can get these beautiful, lovely flowers all throughout. And I have every color of the rainbow. Oh, this one's new. It kind of looks red on the camera right now, but it's actually like an orange, like a burnt orange. And then we've got our red, our pink, yellow, white, lots of different reds, pinks, oranges. I just love this spot. I think it is so pretty. Different kinds of butterflies have always been over here. And I paused for a second because I just spotted a stink bug. So let me show you that. Let's see if we can get close to him without him noticing us. He's right there in the wedge of those leaves. And that is a very young stink bug, so they're not gone. I thought by taking out the tomatoes that they would leave, but that is not the case. They are still here, is what it is. But that's okay. Let's move on. We've got more to look at. So after the zinnia and the sweet potato bed, we are on this next bed, which is kind of a smattering of all kinds of things. I have some pink zinnias right here, or red, pinkish red. This right here is all of my peppers, and that includes some of my Everglade tomatoes. I did not intend, oh, a very large weed. I did not intend for there to be Everglade tomatoes in the middle of the peppers, but that's where they grew. So that's where I left them. Besides the tomatoes, peppers, and zinnias, right down here, I have some lima beans. Oh no, what has happened here? Okay, this is an example of what happens when you're not paying attention in the garden. I think I lost a roselle. How did you? Oh, no. Yep. Let me show you. So I have all my roselles right here, and I just noticed there's a roselle laying down right here. And if I can get close enough without all the spiders getting on me, it looks like it just broke. Well, it's not even broken really, but that's definitely dead. So let's pull this up, make sure we don't have a nematode issue here, because that would be awful. All right. Nope. All that looks pretty normal to me, but upon closer inspection, that looks like we're having problems. So that cracked. I'm not sure from what. There's definitely some damage right there. So the good news is it is not root knot nematodes, but the bad news is we lost this guy. But that is going to happen a lot when you neglect your garden. So that's just going to go back in there and become food for the rest of the plants. So we lost one roselle. Oh, that's a bummer. I love roselle. I'm also having some issues with some other roselles. So these guys right here, you can see them. These guys right here, the bottom leaves all have like this weird yellowing and green veining. And the top ones are finally starting to look right. It's happening to this guy too. Up until recently, I was putting out a lot of questions out into the gardening community as to what is possibly going on with these guys. I've never had a problem with roselle. They are bomb-proof in every way that I know, but they are having some issue. Just these are starting to display that same issue of this pattern of leaves having the color, and the like the tips of them are dying off. So my best guess is fungal issue, which is almost unheard of in roselle plants. So some people told me, hey, it's probably like you're not watering it enough. So I've been really monitoring that. I've been giving it some extra water. The one plant that I'm working on, the rest of them I just let them do their thing. That didn't seem to help any, so I started adding more nutrients, even though roselle should be fine without nutrients. And the nutrients really haven't done anything. So then I moved on to hydrogen peroxide spray, and I've been spraying them with hydrogen peroxide. And this is the first time, I haven't been out in like a week or so, that I've noticed that some of the new growth is coming in correctly with lots of green. And there's actually an understory here that's pretty green too. So I'm going to guess it is possibly a fungal issue, and the hydrogen peroxide is helping. Now, as for these beans, these are Lima beans, and I want to show you the amount of bugs we're talking about here. Do you see that? All kinds of aphids. Other than aphids, there's also been, oh, look at this. That's a lot. That's a lot. And you can see that there's some leaf notching going on, right? I found him the other day, the one that's doing this, which is a bean leaf roller, I think is what it's called. It's actually a really pretty butterfly. It kind of looks like a mix between a moth and a butterfly, and it's got black and it's got like blue, like iridescent colors. It's really pretty. But I found its little babies in here, and from what I researched was that they're going to chew the leaves, but they're probably not going to affect the production on the plant. And honestly, I think it has grown up and moved on, because now the leaves are all healing, and that's great. But the aphids are really, really extreme on these. And I'm not 100% sure that any of these beans are going to be usable based on how much the aphids are attracted to them. But there's only one way to know for sure, and that's to just let them keep growing and keep neglecting and ignoring them. Now this bed here is kind of my messy bed. I have some dead plants, some calendula that is dying out. There's like one Everglade tomato way back there. This is a sweet alyssum that has really finished blooming, and it is completely done. And here's some copper straw flowers. They did okay. They didn't bloom as much as I would like, but they did okay. The really cool one is the peanuts. The peanuts are doing really well. They don't really seem to need anything from me. I've done nothing, as with everything else, but you can start to see that there's some flowers coming in. I'm pretty sure the peanuts grow underground, so I'm not sure the purpose of the flowers. Maybe they need to be pollinated to grow underground? I don't know. Maybe they're like potato flowers, where they just flower, and I don't know. It's my first time growing peanuts. I really didn't expect any of them to work, but this little patch is doing very well. And I started them all from store-bought peanuts. I just bought the raw, uncooked bag of peanuts from Publix. It's usually in the produce section. And then I just buried them. I had buried half with shells on and half without. And I gotta tell you, with the shell on is the way to do it, because all of those came up. None of the ones with the shell off came up. So we're finished with the beds. I'm going to give you a peek into the native garden area right behind me here. These guys are all doing incredible. They are so happy. They're starting to reseed. You can kind of see like some of the little yellow splotches over here. That's all of the seeds falling for these particular plants. The coreopsis are getting big. The milkweeds have grown back almost all of their leaves. They have a ton of leaves back, and it looks like we have milkweed bugs, which I'm not going to treat. They'll be fine. There's a ton of them all over it, but yeah. They were sticks not too long ago, and now they've grown back almost all their leaves. So needless to say, the natives do very well this time of year. They do not mind the heat at all. All right, let's take a look over here at my little pride and joy. This is my palm tree Seminole pumpkin. So I've had the Seminole pumpkin vines crawling all the way up the palm tree here and seeing if it will grow pumpkins. Now I did get one pumpkin off this so far. It grew one. It did well. But something about over here or in the true heat, it has not been blooming very much. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time in hopes that when fall rolls around that it will start producing. But in the meantime, the leaves are doing really great. There are some bugs munching on the edges of the leaves, and there has been a little bit of like fungal issues, but overall it's been fine. I'm just going to let it keep growing and hope that we can get some pumpkins later on. The pineapples are doing great. They're growing really big. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a pineapple over here that was about that tall. It was a tiny, tiny, tiny little pineapple head. Well, that's him now. He's gotten so much bigger. So now we're over by the green stalks, and there's just a lot going on in all these green stalks. I think I warned you guys a couple months ago that you're gonna have to keep up with trimming your herbs, but I have not been taking my own advice, and they have gotten pretty wild. They look a little wilty right now, so I gotta water them. This is the one thing I am doing during the summer is I do have to water my containers. As much as I don't want to do anything out here, I do have to water the containers, especially the green stalks. I feel like they just don't hold water very well. So the other thing is I have something, I think it's like scale or mite, or what are the little white fuzzy bugs? Mealy bugs? Let me show you. So here is my lemon balm, and it has this white stuff all over it. I want to say it's like scale or some sort of animal thing. You can see it really well right here. Let's see if I can get a good look. Yeah, right there. Oop. Look at that. That's pretty much across all of them. But it seems to like the lemon balm the most. Now lemon balm, I can cut it down to the soil and let it regrow and it will be fine. So I'm not worried about that one at all. And then over here is where I keep a lot of my greens. You can see the Egyptian spinach. Man, that is a winner. That thing just grows and grows and grows and grows, and it never stops, which I absolutely love. The amaranth is doing really well. The pineapple sage, the basil is doing great. Then we have the Ethiopian kale. It's kind of limping along this year. I don't know what's quite going on with it. The red Malabar spinach is right back there. So lots of greens going on. I pick them probably about every 2 days, and that keeps up with the amount of greens that we have. And then the last part of the garden that I wanted to show you is the fruit trees. So this is Peachy. Peachy needs a haircut, and I keep saying that, but I haven't done it yet. But Peachy needs a haircut. She's also got some of these like damaged kind of yellowing leaves going on here, but this is kind of normal. I've noticed that that happened last year as well, and she's totally fine, so I think it's just the weather. My lychee, yes, this is the lychee. It is growing, and it has just put on a new flush of leaves, which I think is cool. The sherbet berry, the berries are all maturing finally, and so not a whole lot, but enough to have a snack while I'm out here. Very tart. Very good though. Check out this plum. Do you guys remember when we put this in? He was a little bitty guy, and he's gotten so tall. It's pretty crazy. The elderberry. I have elderberries, guys. This is the elderberry. I did get some elderberries. I'm actually incredibly shocked that I got any because I don't have a plant for it to pollinate with. But there is a native elderberry in Florida, so I'm guessing that there's one somewhere near me. So I've got not a really good production right there, and not a really good production right there, but there's some. Besides that, the strawberries that I had put in, I'm using little pots because I'm trying to take some of the daughter plants and I'm going to attempt to put them back in the green stalk to see if I can help them grow. So there's some more right there. So I'm leaving some of them to root into the bed, and then some of them I'm putting in the trays so that way I can put them in my green stalk. Now, this poor guy, loquat. Loquat had a little problem. Loquat started to have a really bad fungal issue on the top after he got put in. So I actually cut him off at the top to get rid of that issue, and that really did solve the issue, and now he's got all this new growth, but he's quite a bit behind. Next up is the pomegranate, and it's got a lot of new growth. It's really pretty. It's got like this reddish yellow type growth coming off of it. The blackberry is just about finished, and the birds have recently found it, so there's very few berries that I'm getting off of it at this point, but it's just about done for the year, and now it's going through its like massive growth spurt. And over here are my two mulberries right next to each other. This guy's looking a little bit rough. This guy was looking really rough, and I stripped him of his leaves, and now he's got mulberries coming in. Look at those little guys. I learned that is something that you can do with mulberries, is you can completely strip them of their leaves and it'll encourage them to reproduce more berries. Well, I was doing it because the leaves looked really sad and not very happy, and I thought there might be like a fungal issue, and the thing that how I deal with fungal issues is I just get rid of stuff. And so sometimes that means cutting the tree back, like I did with the loquat. Sometimes it means stripping it. So it depends. But apparently it wasn't a fungal issue when I talked to Jacqueline over at the Wild Floridian. She says hers do it too. It must be some sort of like effect from the sun, sunburn, sun scald, something like that, and that they'll bounce right back from that. I didn't realize that at the time, and I had removed its leaves, so it's fine though. It's growing back, and I'm going to have another round of mulberries. So I had to retreat into the patio because it is starting to rain. It looks like we have a storm coming in. So I hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope it gave you some ideas that you can grow a summer garden and you can completely neglect it and still have a harvest that you would not believe. Some of these plants are really going to be pushing out really quickly. Some of them already are, like those Thai soldier beans. And the bugs are eating them, the sun is beaming on them, I'm barely watering, I'm not feeding them, and yet everyone is still doing okay. And that, in my book, is success. When it's so hot, so humid, and so miserable outside, letting the plants do the work for you is number one. If you want to watch a couple more of my videos between now and my next upload, I'm going to pop those up now. Happy gardening, guys.